During the 2023 season, Alton Towers Resort will be completely removing its famous Nemesis roller coaster and retracking the majority of the ride. Don't forget, you now have until the 6th of November 2022 to ride the original version of Nemesis before it closes for its huge refurb. Over the last few weeks there has been huge speculation around the park that Nemesis Subterra could possibly be reopening next year, and in today's video we're taking a look at all of the latest speculation on this news. This is Theme Park Realm News, and today we're taking a look at the history and speculation surrounding the reopening of Nemesis Subterra. If you do enjoy today's video, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and if you're interested in hearing more about the Nemesis retrack work, please check out our dedicated news video, which I'll link in the description below. So first of all, we really need to take a look at the history of Nemesis Subterra and the facts surrounding the ride to understand why there has been so much speculation, and to establish whether or not this ride could potentially reopen next year. Nemesis Subterra originally opened at the park in 2012. The ride had been hyped right from the very end of the 2011 season, with banners appearing around the site stating Nemesis, What Lies Beneath, Unleashed 2012. Nemesis Subterra was an ABC drop tower ride, featuring 4 drop towers surrounding a central egg theming feature, the egg of course belonging to the Nemesis creature. The ride was themed around the Nemesis backstory, and guests would watch a video before entering the ride chamber explaining how Phalanx had controlled the Nemesis creature by pinning down the monster using the original Nemesis track. The backstory to Nemesis Subterra was that recent excavations near the Nemesis site had unearthed eggs. These were the eggs of the Nemesis creature, and as such Phalanx had been redeployed to the site to secure the location. Of course, whilst observing the egg, everything goes wrong. The egg cracks and the drop towers plunge riders into a cave. Once the drop tower is back at the top, guests were then quickly evacuated before making their way back outside the ride. The ride received huge criticism when it first opened, and actually had to have changes and slight enhancements made to it in its first season of operation. In my personal opinion, I really liked the ride, and it was great to have an additional indoor attraction at the park. The drop tower packed a punch, especially given its short height, and I loved the linking of the Nemesis backstory. In my personal opinion, the only reason this ride received so much criticism is due to it being named after Nemesis, and of course nothing is ever going to beat the original ride. So it's fair to say that the ride had a troubled history right from the very start, and it didn't help when an issue with the restraint system became apparent. ABC drop tower rides do not feature individual lap bars, and so it'd be quite common for people or kids to try and climb out of the ride whilst it was running, causing a whole other headache for the park. The restraints were eventually modified, and I know that these drop towers have also been running in Merlin's other dungeon attractions without any issues since. Anyway, as many of you will be aware, in 2015 there was a serious incident on the Smiler roller coaster, leading to huge fines for the park, a short closure, and a huge dent in the park's operating profits, due of course to their headline ride being closed after only around 2 years of operation. Following the incident, the park shelved a number of its rides, including the Flume, Hex and Ripsaw. Out of these rides, the Flume and Ripsaw were completely destroyed. However, Hex and Nemesis Subterra were left standing but not operating, and eventually Hex reopened, but Nemesis Subterra did not. Nemesis Subterra was one of the park's shortest lived attractions, running only during the 2012, 13, 14 and 15 seasons. Despite the ride costing a whopping £4.5 million to install, it just never returned. There has been so much speculation around this ride, and the overall story of the ride has continued within many different attractions around the park. During Alton Towers Scarefest 2015, the ride's theme was loosely used within the subspecies The End Games and subspecies Operation Lockdown. The area outside Subterra was also used as a scare zone, which again linked into the theme of the original ride. Following these attractions, we didn't hear much more from Subterra until 2018, when the park opened a new scare maze called Project 42, and this maze actually took guests through the Subterra building for the first time since its closure in 2015. With the scare maze being themed around Subterra itself. Project 42 allowed guests to go through the ride chamber, and at this point all of the original theming was still intact, and even the drop tower itself appeared to still be in place, with a temporary wall surrounding each of the drop towers. Now we can't confirm for 100% whether or not the ride is still within the building, but what we can do is look at the facts. The fact is, in 2018 and 19, the areas where the drop towers were covered only by a flimsy temporary wall. If the ride had been removed, there would be a huge drop here, and I would suspect this would require a more robust fence or wall to have been constructed. The second point that I'd like to make here is that nobody has ever seen any part of this ride being moved. Yes, small parts may have been taken off, however, we can be pretty certain that the towers themselves are still within the building. The building itself is very small, and so the only way of getting the towers out of here would be to remove the roof of the building and employ a large crane, none of which has ever been seen at the park. Bearing in mind when Ripsaw was removed, there was multiple sightings of it leaving the park on lorries, and it's sitting waiting to be picked up from the actual car park outside the resort. I'm almost 99% certain that this ride is still within that building, and if it's not, where else could it be? But I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts in the comments down below. You also have to bear in mind that in 2018 and 2019, all of the ride's theming was still in place. The park almost always removes and reuses old theming from closed rides. The question is, why did they not reuse the theming within Subterra? Anyway, now on to the most recent speculation, and that is that the ride is returning for 2023. And to be honest, it looks totally feasible. The park has already begun refurbishments throughout the building and the queue line over the last few weeks. And I post these images from Tower Street which show the work taking place on the ride. I would, by the way, recommend that you follow Tower Street, as they have posted quite a few updates as things have progressed around this building. Now, it would absolutely make sense for the park to return this ride for 2023. They're going to be one major ride down with the temporary closure of Nemesis. And given that the park are wanting to hype the new version of the Nemesis coaster, it's likely that the ride will retain some sort of Nemesis-based theme, even if it does not follow the original story of Subterra. So in my opinion, the drop towers are definitely going to reopen, and I'd be pretty sure that the ride will retain some form of Nemesis theme. But this is of course only speculation at the moment, so I'd invite thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Could the ride reopen, or is this simply the park starting to remove Subterra for good? Please do let me know, and again, if you did enjoy today's video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. But as always, thank you very much for watching.